So, good morning, everyone. My name is Linda Coyle, and I am here with Trish Cook, Laurel Deloney, and Katie. Um, Katie, help me with your last name. Susan Bedingfield. Katie
Bedingfield, yes.
Bedingfield. See how I have to do that? See how I have to go with the connection? Susan Bedingfield, daughter Katie. So today is just I think to all of us, we just are super excited because Katie is our first guest who's willing to share her testimony. Very early on in the podcast, I shared my journey of a learning different person who had dyslexia and a plethora of other learning differences. And I shared my trauma and how I felt like now that I'm out on the other side, that it had to happen. It had to happen for me to be in the position that I'm in as a special ed teacher to teach kids that are so much like me. And so Trish Cook, same thing. She feels as though she had to go. Trish, you want to share? You had to go through this, the other side, to get to where we are now, and then Laurel too. And then we'll get right into Katie's story, which we can't wait to hear.
Yeah, so I was thinking this morning, I was like, my most intelligent kids that I work with, which is seriously all of them, and they suffer academically. They all know in their mind what they want to do each time I get on with them. So I feel like my program helps them to just trust your mind, coming from a group of kids that been in school where they haven't been able to do that. They've been told what and why and everything else. So they need to trust their own thinking, thoughts, and feelings. So that's what's key from my learning difference that I learned is trusting my mind, trusting myself.
I love that. And Laurel, do you have anything that you'd like to say about your journey and where you are now?
Yeah. Excuse me. I mean, I think this is a great opportunity for all of us, just to share how our differences help us, to reach others because, I mean, we are all unique. And I think, one thing, with my journey, I've learned that it is okay to be different. Different is good. And that's where, I'm excited to hear your story, Katie, because I know that, you've had a journey and I just heard a little bit from your mom. So I know that, this is going to be exciting just to hear how you've grown over the years and how you've learned to embrace your differences. And it's exciting, with you being, much younger, just hearing how you approached that journey and you got to this point a lot earlier in life than maybe some of the rest of us have. So this is exciting.
Yeah, thank you, Laurel. So I was thinking the same thing. It's exciting that we have someone young, right? And so that brings me to my thought this morning that God dropped into my head. I was praying that whoever is listening might be know someone who sounds a lot like Katie, who sounds a lot like myself, like Trish, like Laurel, and are struggling and aren't where we are. They don't even know that they have a learning uniqueness and it's a gift. They might be in that part of their life where they're questioning everything and their self-worth and why me season in their life. So I pray that there are listeners out there that know of someone that should reach out to Trish, myself, Laurel, so we can help them along their journey to get where we are today, where we accept and love that we have a learning difference. Take it away, Katie. Can't wait to hear.
Sounds good. Okay, so I'll just kind of start from the beginning, I guess. So my mom told y'all a little bit because I listened to the podcast where she talked about her memoir, where's Katie. And so I found out that I felt like I had something going on with with my brain and just how I process things, and even just how I learn kind of around the 6th grade. I didn't know what it was. For the longest time, I just thought I was stupid. I couldn't understand why I couldn't grasp some of the basic fundamentals of learning, and some of the just very early learning stuff that just should kind of click very easily with a lot of kids in school. I didn't understand why I wasn't understanding it, or why I couldn't remember something the day after I learned it. And so then that's when that's when I got tested, and we realized that I had dyslexia. And what helped me in that area was that my mom never called it a disability. She never called it a hindrance, and she never saw me differently and never treated me differently, and that she adapted my learning, but she never made my learning easier. She helped me in overcoming it and learning how I needed to learn, but she never did stuff for me. And I remember her telling me stories about her students whose parents would kind of baby them and or treat them as if they were younger. And I'm very thankful that she never did that, because I was in the 6th grade at the time, so I was still able to graduate with my class, which I am very thankful for, because I never had to be held back in that regard. But for the longest time, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's right. I don't want to stop you in the middle, but I want to say how I was right there with you in that 6th grade class, looking at all my peers and just wondering why do they completely understand, or at least they're showing like a good, like maybe they're great actors and actresses,
Yeah.
or that they really get it, and so why is it that I can't recall the lesson, even like when I walk down the hallway? Like, what was it that we just learned? Like, so I didn't have any tools, and I did not have a diagnosis. Not have a diagnosis. So I went through high school and through college without a diagnosis. Just the only thing that I had was tenacity and grit and working hard, right? So yes, kudos, mommy, Susan Bedingfield, for making up your mind that my daughter is struggling, and we're gonna get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
So continue.
She worked with me after school for a long time. She retaught me a lot of my basic grammar skills. Like reading and writing comprehension is probably my biggest struggle area. It still is, but she gave me tools to be able to, like Trish was saying, trust your mind and trust what you've been taught, to make the educated guess and or to make wise choices in what you're learning and or what you're trying to communicate, if it's in an email now, or if it was in my paper, in like what I was writing at the time in papers, but now it's when I'm sending emails and that sort of thing for work. But so I would go to school, and then I'd basically go back to school with my mom at the end of the day. And it was really hard for me for a while, because I would sit in class and I had a severe like test anxiety, a lot of even just like reading in class would terrify me. Like if we had a pop quiz and it would be like, read this short story and write something on it, I would be like, I'm not even going to get through the story in time in order to be able to actually do the quiz. And so I would worry myself just because I just knew that I wouldn't be able to read fast enough, because I would get stumped on trying to comprehend a sentence for a while, and then once I finally figured that out, then I could move on. And so, there were a lot of other things that I was just trying to go through, and also make it seem like that I wasn't different.
So now,
And
I'm just thinking about school and where like we are falling short. So I called myself a woodwork kid, and
mm,
what I mean by that is that I blended in.
mm,
I look the part, I act the part. I was voted friendliest of my senior class. I definitely did a really great job of hiding those anxieties, that same fear, and you painted such an amazing picture that I know most learning different people feel. Like, I need more time. I need to go over into this corner over here. I need to not hear you breathing over there. I need to get my own breathing under control, and I just need time, right? With time, and I also need to open up this page over here to be able to take notes as I go. Like, these are the things that I need, instead of just sitting here scared to death that I'm going to be judged and that I'm going to fail and here we go again and all of that, right?
yeah.
So I'm just thinking out loud right now, like, maybe before a teacher starts a test, is there anyone that feels like they're going to need more time at this point,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And is there anyone that would benefit from a graphic organizer that we could open up? Just simple little things like that. I'm going to make a note to myself that I'm doing that, because I don't
Can
even
I
think
speak? I want to speak on that. Katie, Mom
yes.
said she used games a lot more with you and you knew in your mind that your learning style goes towards problem solving, strategic thinking, and something of your interest usually is it's like games or fun, it's like adventurous
Yeah.
stuff, but we can be held back, from that. So, so she trusted that was a way to teach you the best, and she went with that. But and I'm sure you had the strong will and tenacity that she's talking about, to say sometimes, Mom, let's go to this game now, and she listened to you because you
Mhm.
were ready for that. So she made it fun. I got to bring that up.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
her creativity is always astounds me. And I think that's probably why I'm in theater. I think I get a lot of it from her. Um, but she had a way of making things fun and memorable, because that was the biggest thing for me. Was, again, like we talked, because I listened to y'all's podcast, but like we would my brain would be in pajamas. Like, I would have pajama days where I couldn't actually really comprehend what we had talked about the day before or even earlier that week. And my mom would always say, well, go through your filing cabinet. It's in there. You just got to go through your filing cabinet, just kind of like, you have all these different compartments in your brain and all these different files. So it's in there. You just need to find it. And so she gave me tangible ways to think of something or figure out what I was thinking and find it in my brain, and to be able to pull out the information that I needed. And that was really helpful, because that was where my panic would come from. Not that I didn't know it, but that I, for some
Not being
reason,
able to
couldn't
retrieve
find
it.
it.
Yes.
And so sometimes I'd sit in class, and like I would have crammed for a test or would have crammed for something, and I'm just searching and searching, and a lot of the time it would just be as simple as breathing, taking a deep breath, and then going, no, I know this. I literally just read about this yesterday. And so most of the time, what I ended up doing was putting a lot of things to songs. And so I would either listen to a certain song while I was studying, or like I would put things to a tune. Because when I was younger, my dad, whenever he would come home from work and he'd ask me about my day, I would put it to the tune of the washing machine. And so that I would always be able to recount my day to the beat of the washing machine.
Yeah, but you kind of sequence your day
Whoa.
using rhyme, meter, pattern, rhythm. That's what we have.
That is
So,
amazing.
yeah.
So what I hear you saying is that when you were homeschooled, you were in a lesson and there was the sound of the washer machine behind you, and you could retell based on the sound that was in the background, that you attached your learning to that. That is phenomenal. So I wonder if that's what I do in, like, a lot of times I'll like be listening to a podcast and I remember it because that's where I was raking leaves at that point. I remember that. And that's where I was in the car. Like, is that similar?
Yeah.
And how does that help me? How does that help me as a learner? I'm wondering.
Well, it's
But
like
also-
our brain processes at a certain speed. Everybody's is either hyper, hypo, or varied. So it's got to match your processing speed with the tone. So mine is probably, if I have to guess, if I'm calm, it's probably da 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 da. And if I'm not calm, it's probably I need a faster tone to match my mind. And then of course with breathing and getting it all equalized and equanimity with it, it'd probably be a constant speed of somewhere between the fast and the slow. So there's a lady in California who studies this, and she puts music in people's left ear when they're studying. But the thing is with me, with venturing out and doing something like that with my students, I don't know where their rhythm or rhyme, meter, pattern. I don't even know music.
They need to find
well.
it sounds like, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like Katie found it herself. That
Yeah.
I just think that is such a beautiful, it's one of your gifts. But I just need to say one thing before we continue. Trish and Laurel are working on trying to make school more of a horizontal rather than vertical
Yeah.
example, right? And so Trish, within that, would that also be not only will we have administration and people higher up, even with us, they'd come in the classroom and they'd be a part of a lesson or whatever, but are we leaning more toward interest-based learning? Because I can't help but think that Katie would, a lot of her anxiety would have been removed had she had the opportunity to learn based on her interest, because she was being forced to learn something that may not have been of her interest. Like, why do I have to learn this? And I'm not interested in it. So it's hard for me. Like, I know in and out the things that I'm passionate about, but I don't know a lot of other things. I can't remember.
So if
other
it's work
stuff.
for the student, it's because it's not going with their strengths, their gifts, or their interests. If it's work should not come out of their mouth. They should not feel, you should not observe as if they're doing work. It needs to be fun. It needs to be calm. And when they're fun and calm and relaxed in their learning, then they're actually learning, and you know you're going by their strength, their gift, and their interest. So it's very important with the My Albert program that's going to be implemented once we get this horizontal framework in place, that we do this assessment and get them to know those things about themselves. And that's how they're going to learn to trust their mind to listen and hear what they need to know in their inner knowing about whatever it is, because we already see the whole picture. It's just the breaking down of that, and especially being able to communicate that with others.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
In my co-op days, after I was diagnosed, my mom went to all of my teachers and she filled them in on what was going on. And after I got my diagnosis, they would, whenever we would have like a an in-class quiz or a test or something like that, they would take me into a different room and they would give me extra time. So I'd be in a room by myself. So the time before my diagnosis was more difficult because no one knew and I didn't even know. So it's not like I could even adequately communicate with my teachers what was happening and even my peers, because I couldn't even put into words what was going on in my own brain. But until I got my diagnosis, my mom could tell the heads of the co-op and my teachers that it would be beneficial for me to have more time. And if there was an extra room, then they would give me an extra room, or they would let me spend a little bit more time on the test. Because the hard thing for me was not necessarily the time itself, but when my peers would get done with a test before me and then they'd start conversing and then they would get up and move around. And because my eyes go to the thing that's moving. And so I would get so distracted that I couldn't even focus on the thing at the table because I'm like hearing my classmates whispering and I'm very heightened to like soft sounds, which is hilarious. But like I would be sitting there and I'd be hearing them talking about the quiz. And I'm like, I'm still taking the quiz.
Yes. And so it's very difficult to deal with the really, it's just the rudeness of the classroom and to be honest, so, as an educator, sometimes when you give a quiz, it's a breather for a teacher. I'm just being completely transparent. It's like, they're independent over there. They're taking this, but really, you shouldn't be feeling like that. You should be looking at the tone of the class and noticing. There's Katie over there. She's still taking the quiz. You know what? You guys need to go over there and sit quietly and read a book. You're not allowed to have side conversation. I mean, that goes without saying. Right.
Yeah.
And so your mom gave you a lot of confidence and a lot of tools. And but at your age, it's still very difficult for you to be an advocate for yourself. Like, excuse me, like, because then you're the fear of being judged.
That. I don't think she says very independent, strong. Your mom made you so independent, strong.
Right. But so would you say, can you guys quiet down? I'm still taking a quiz, or excuse me, can I leave and go in another room? Let me go in the closet over here so I can finish.
Yeah. At the time, I didn't feel like I could do that, you know? And because also in my mind, I was like, I feel like my teacher should be the one to be like, y'all need to sit back down until the testing time is over. Like the testing time was still not even over with. And college was a lot easier, honestly, but there was a good stint of time that I didn't think that I was even going to graduate from high school. And because I was terrified of the ACT, terrified. And I was able to get extra time on the ACT, which was amazing. And I got maybe a couple points above what I needed to actually get into the college that I went to. And so once I got into college, my college actually has this program for students with learning disabilities. And you can get note takers, you can request extra time on tests. And so I did that all throughout college. And I
can't forget those. I didn't get.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I didn't get by without those.
Well, I always felt like that the professor, why are you making me, if I am having difficulty processing what you're saying, why are you asking me to also simultaneously take notes? So I love taking
Yeah.
notes now on my time, but now you're speaking fast. I can't
Yeah.
type that fast. And so why don't you just freaking give me the notes, give me the outline, and then say,
Yeah.
this is where you should probably take a moment and just summarize what I just said, instead
Yeah.
of just going on and on and on. And so a lot of times I think that the teachers, the professors are a little selfish in that I have an agenda. I have things that I need to accomplish. This is what
They let
my
Katie's
lesson plan
age
says.
just record it, right, Katie? Do they let you just
Yes.
Yeah,
record it?
they did. They let me record it. I used in high school. I didn't, because I didn't have an iPhone at the time in high school, so I had a little recorder that I would use in high school. But when I got into college, I would do the voice memo on my phone, and I could sit there, and they knew why I had my phone out, because most of my classes they had a no phone policy. But for me, they allowed me to use my voice memo so I could record them if for some reason I didn't have a note taker in the class. But there was another student who would take notes for me, and they would send them to the student center where I could take my tests, and they would print off all of those students' notes, and they would like have a packet of notes for me.
That
um,
seems overwhelming, though, to have to go back through on top of sitting in the lecture, right? And then go back through the
That's
notes in
all
order to
extra
get
work.
ready.
That's good for her. That's good for us that we have to do
It-
extra reading, extra hearing, extra writing, because that's just
it
what's
was,
made us
yeah,
stronger than everybody else. We can
it
handle a
was
lot.
it was actually really nice, because if there was a gap in my notes, then I could go back through and find the gap in my notes. And because I'm a sensory learner, so like I have to use all of them. And so writing them down and saying them out loud at the same time helped me to remember more, because if I'm just strictly reading something, then it's just gonna kind of go through my brain, and then it's not gonna stick. So it's just gonna kind of go in a circle sort of thing. So if I'm sitting there reading it and writing it down at the same time, it helped me to remember things a lot more quickly than if I was just trying to panically like listen and write at the same time.
It
But
freed your mind to be able to do one thing at a time.
it did.
That's
And then I
wonderful.
could even like color code them, because I really love colors. And so I would have all of these different colored pens in college. And whenever I would get the other students' notes, I would color code them by the chapter or the subjects. And I would have each one in a different color. And then I could remember it. If I couldn't remember the subject, then I could remember the color.
Wow. So that's amazing. So again, another example of your gift of dyslexia and how you're learning uniqueness and how you trusted your brain and what works and what you needed in order to retrieve the information. And I'm just hoping that the listeners um, understand that or appreciate what Katie is sharing, because this is going to help others, right? I know that when I was in school that that there was a technology called Scribe, and it was a pen that I could use to record, but it also had like this dotted matrix paper. And so I could just write the date of the lecture and then just click on it, the notebook, and the whole recording of the lecture would be there. So then I could take my time and go back through and take my notes. But I wasn't as smart as Katie with my color coding to help cement it, for the test. But definitely I realized the multi-sensory, like the writing and the listening, but definitely needed an opportunity to slow that down. Did not have that in college, found it later when I was taking graduate class.
Katie said was what I say about color, shape, size, dimension that we need to learn better. And so you described, Linda, a student to me before who seems to just be obsessed with color. And I said, that's how you're going to teach them, is through color. You're going to avoid black and white as much as possible. And he probably thinks in color. So you can associate whatever you're trying to teach to him in color, and try to create that story for him in color, and so on and so forth. So she's right. She probably saw not the black and white word on the page, but she saw the color, and then like, what was that word associated to that color? So that's very
Mhm.
important that she mentions that, because that's going to help a lot.
Wow, I just love this. Katie, you are such a gift. You are helping so many people. What episode is this?
So it's 9. And you
So
help
what-
people,
what-
Linda, because you said that pen and you said it has a dotted matrix. We've mentioned your visual processing problems. And I said the reason why I like the computer is because it has a natural grid. But if it's color processing problems, you cannot have any grids at all. It hurts. But it hurts your eyes physically, and you get stress, visual stress. But for your visual processing, you needed those grids or dots to help you, and so other people need to hear that. So you're helpful too, Linda.
Oh, why, thank you. I appreciate that. But I'm just gonna, the reason I said what episode is this, because I know I'm gonna
Mhm.
say, let's go to episode 9 and listen to Katie's experience, because yes, she had the support of her mother, but she trusted her brain. She trusted and knew what it was that she needed to do in order to succeed. And I just think it's so beautiful. So continue. Do you have more to share, Katie?
Yeah. Along with the color coding, I always bought all of my books. It was a little expensive to do that, but that way I could write in them and highlight. Because if I wasn't writing on my paper, I was at least I had every color of the rainbow in my writing utensils, so highlighters, pens, and everything else that I could think of. And I always would highlight. I highlighted all the time. And then I would probably try and sell my book to someone else if I didn't need it. But that way I was able to write in the margins, write alongside it, and be able to understand better what I was reading by being able to just mark in the book what my thought processes were. But yeah, I owe a lot to my mom, because she understood the way my brain worked more than I did, and she helped me figure out how to go about understanding how I needed to learn and what I needed to do to help myself feel comfortable and confident in what I was doing, to make the decisions that I needed to help me. And she always told me that it was okay to ask for help, because no, that's what your teachers are there for, are to help. And that's where, like, what the administration is for, was to help you learn. And all of my professors were amazing, and they also helped me. And but if it wasn't for her, who was she was always very attentive to me and very attentive to listening to what I needed, and or if I couldn't find the words, she would ask me questions, and she would always say, "This is what I'm hearing you say, so my understanding is that you're feeling this way. So she would help me even figure out how to put my feelings and or my lack of understanding into words, and to be able to clearly express what was going on inside my brain to other people. She would
Katie, let
always
me,
ask me,
I'm sorry.
no, go for it.
No, no, I just wanted to know, was there a time in your life when you felt the freedom of, like it was like a switch went off where it was like, oh, that's what dyslexia is. And I'm totally accepting what this is. And once you understood what it was, that you were empowered. Do you remember, or was it just a slow process because your mom was always there supporting you and helping you understand that there's nothing wrong with you? You're just being taught a different way.
I think, yeah, the moment came for me my freshman year of college, because after I got through the standardized testing, and all of that anxiety, I got into college, and it was freshman year, and I remember sitting in one of my first classes and realizing that this was where I was going to thrive, because it's really not anything like what my high school teachers painted college to look like, because I think a lot of my high school teachers tried to made things a little bit harder, because they were like, we're prepping you for college. So that's where a lot of my anxiety came from with college, was because I was like, well, if this is what college is going to be like, this is going to be awful. And
Yeah.
I was terrified. Whereas when I got to college and I figured out my major, I still had a few of those core classes that, were college level math and stuff like that. But once I figured out how I learned and how I was able to memorize the information that I needed, those classes were not scary like they were in high school.
They're in your interest.
I was able to remember and go about them in a way that I remembered from high school, because in a way, the thing that scared me in high school helped me in college, because I remembered the fear in high school, but then I remembered the the equation, and I remembered how to work the equation out of that fear. It's almost like, it's the sensory learning, but also it's just like you can put your body back into that feeling of where you were when you learned this certain thing, and I could take the fear out of it and just remember the information.
Wow.
But it was college, because that was where I knew learning was going to be exciting, because
Wow. I love it.
that was where I wanted to be. Those were the things that I wanted to do. And because all of the other classes that I were taking were all theater classes. So going to class every day was so exciting for me. And I was eager and ready to learn about everything that they were talking about, because I didn't really do a lot of theater in high school. So then when I got to college, it was like this amazing, beautiful world that I had really never gotten to kind of get myself into. And so it was, so that was the time, because I was like, this is where my brain is happy.
Wow. Wow. So, is there anything else that you want to share? Any other little nuggets that would help the listener just understand that being different is oh so good? And you are such a beautiful example of that. Is there anything else? Because we can have you again. I feel like there's so much more that you could share, right? Um, and to make note when you leave, like, she didn't allow me to say this, that, or the other thing. And come back again. Come back again.
You know, I
But
have a whole thing of notes here, but like Linda said, she can come back again and I can dress next week. But I want to stress the love and fear, but you know, I won't. I won't. Yeah, I'll listen. I'll be good.
There was one question actually that I was looking at, and it was the footnote of who hindered you along the way. And I can't pinpoint one person except for myself. I think I hindered myself more than anyone else did, because there was never any one person who said you're stupid. No one ever told me that. No one ever told me I was dumb. No one ever told me that I wasn't going to be able to get through school. No one ever told me that I was not going to succeed.
so you had that story in your head going on, a story, ruminating thoughts.
Yes. But the one person who told me that was me, because I was looking at everyone else around me, even my sisters. My sisters are all brilliant, and my youngest sister, she could spell words that I couldn't even spell in high school, and she's 4 years younger than me. And her brain is just hardwired for that kind of learning. And it didn't make sense to me that I was not understanding what Libby could understand, and Libby was 4 years younger than me. And so I was like, so the one person who hindered me the most was myself, because I was looking at my peers and I was judging myself, because I wanted so badly to just not have the brain that I do, and just to be able to have whatever they had, and just be normal, and not have to have someone edit my papers or have someone help me with my spelling or tell me how to spell a word, or even just have my younger sister help me, but that was never anything that someone else was putting on me. That was all my own insecurities. And it wasn't until I got into college that I was accepting of my brain, and that it was the first time where I actually saw that I was smart and capable of what my mom told me, because it's your mom, of course she's going to tell you that. But until you actually see it for yourself, and because that was the first time I was also just independent. I wasn't with her every day.
Right.
So it's not like I could go home, talk things through with her, show her what I was learning, show her my homework. I had to be independent. I had to do my own schedule. I had to study and do everything on my own. And so that was the first time where I felt capable and smart enough to do all of that.
Well,
on
she
my
gave
own.
you those executive skills as well, which are oh so important to have, right? But so in closing, I just want to say what dropped into my head, and it's the fact that you are theatrical and have so much to offer, but shared that part of your life, how you were the one who hindered yourself. What if you could create a play
Mm.
that was that story, and you were and the character was you, and you help people get rid of that story in their head. Don't ever let them get there. Like me, somehow create a play that
Yeah.
depicts that, because there's so many of you and me and Trish and Laurel out there that had those ruminating thoughts that we had inside that hindered us from believing and understanding what our gifts are, which is really what Albert is designed to do. Like,
Albert
we
looks
want to
at,
help
yeah,
everything.
intergenerational anger and shame. So she could put it upon herself by looking at and observing what's around her and what everybody else was doing. But there was some point where the fear had gone away, and she replaced it with love, with empathy, compassion, and peace. Now she can offer that help to others by writing this play, and they can recognize themselves in her story, and really bring them to the peace with themselves. When you have peace with the others, you'll have peace with others, you'll have peace with God. You need to share that story. I would
Or
do
write a
that
book,
play.
or do
Play.
both.
I mean, you can write a book and then turn it to a play,
Yeah.
whatever.
Right. It's
So-
all beautiful and wonderful. And I just thank Katie so much for showing up today and being her beautiful, authentic self. And I feel like we gained a friend. I'm like fighting back the tears here. So
It was my story. It was hearing my story back. It was hearing a lot
mine
of
too.
my story.
Yeah, we have a lot of similar. I think that
Mhm.
every time we invite a listener, I think we're gonna be able to attach to certain parts, because so much of it is similar.
And there's one time I got a
Yet
little
different.
anxious, so I know I need to work out some anger. I got a little anxious when you mentioned testing anxiety. I thought it was gone for me, but my heart started racing again, so it's still there, that residual anger with that.
Oh, absolutely. Me too. So,
I
but
still
anyway,
have.
so
What?
yeah, you still have it. Yeah.
I still have school dreams about school that I didn't graduate.
Yeah.
And I graduated in 2016, and I'm like, nope, school's not a thing anymore.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Okay, so so let's agree that this is just the beginning for us, that you'll come back and share with us, like, because I would love to know what you're doing now, so we didn't even discuss that, right?
Yeah.
So let's continue. We'll look at the outline of questions that we had, and see where we can go from there. Okay, so thanks again. Thanks for your time.
Thanks,
Yeah,
everybody.
thank you.
Thanks, Laurel. Thanks,
Yeah.
Katie. Thanks, Linda. Bye.
All right, take
Bye.
care. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone.
You too.
Bye-bye.